everybody. Ben Nelson here, the Everyday Real Estate Investor. Hope you're having a fantastic day as you're listening to this. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the support. Again, just really want to be putting out all this mindset and content about how you can be successful in real estate investing and in your life and in general, just not just real estate, although we talk a lot about real estate. But, getting around those excuses of, too busy, I have too many things going on, all those hurdles that we all find ourselves in, no matter what we're trying to accomplish in our lives, whether that's real estate investing or something else. We all have goals, and we all have a lot of reasons that we can't do them, right? So I was talking to my son about this actually the other day on the way home from Boy Scouts, and as he's working through Boy Scouts and he's working through all of his different merit badges and the things that he has to accomplish to rank up and everything. And he has one in particular that he's been working on that he said he's going to start, for several months here. And I told him, I said, hey, you're always going to have a reason that you're too busy, or because he was coming, I have my schoolwork goes later now. I've got all this other stuff going on, all these reasons, right? And then it's not that they're not legitimate reasons, like they're valid reasons, right? But I told him, I said, you're always going to have a reason why you're not going to be able to do it. There's always going to be something else that you could be spending your time on. There's always going to be something else you could choose to do. And so you have to be intentional about it. If you want it to happen, you have to set aside a time to do it. You have to make a plan, and you have to stick to that plan, and you have to start. And if you continue to have excuses, that's all you're going to have is excuses. And once you start, you gain that momentum, and then you can start accomplishing and hitting those goals. So that's on that note, I mean, that's really a big thing, is just starting, right? So if you're struggling and you're not sure what to do, start, right? You're listening to this, that's a good place to start, but just break it down. What is your goal? What do you really want to accomplish? And just make it into digestible chunks of what you can actually accomplish. And do a little bit every day, do a little bit every week, and you'll be surprised at how quickly you can make progress. And I can't remember who said it. I think it's Anthony Robbins, but that people underestimate what they can do. They overestimate what they can do in a short amount of time, but they underestimate what they can do in a long amount of time. I'm totally butchering that and not saying it right, but the point is that if people think they can do all of these things in a short amount of time, a lot of times, and then they essentially underestimate that compound effect that Darren Hardy calls it, of a little bit over time, and you can accomplish so much more than you think you can if you just break it down and you do a little bit at a time. So that is not what I'm talking about today, but I thought that was just kind of flowed, and I really, in that experience that I had with my son, I just wanted to throw that out there. So what we are going to talk about today is fear. We are in the holiday season officially here. We've got Halloween here, and myself and my family, we're not huge into Halloween. That's just a personal thing with our family, and it's just how we just never really been into it. So, but you can't ignore that it's there, and you've got all the costumes, and you've got all the scary movies and all of that stuff. So we are going to talk about fear, right? We're going to talk about, so we're right in the holiday season. This is coming out on Halloween, and fear and all of those things. Some people, I don't enjoy scary movies personally. But a lot of people like that, and they like the adrenaline rush, and they like to be scared, and they like the scary costumes and all of that stuff. But in life, we have a lot of things that fear can cause us to not accomplish the things that we want to. It can hold us back, and it can be a really big detriment to us. So we're going to talk about that today, about a lot of different aspects of fear. And I talked about this a little bit a few months ago when I was talking about, I think it was the 4 things that hold investors back, and a lot of them were mindset things, and fear was a big one. That was one of them. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into it this time. I'm going to talk about a few of the same ones that I brought up then, and throw in a few other ones and a bunch more thoughts along with it. So hopefully this is helpful to you. Again, this is a mindset-based one. We talk about mindset. We talk about strategy. We're going to get into mindset today because mindset is super, super important to be able to be successful. So facing fears and finding success. So the first one that I want to talk about is the fear of failure. This is a huge one. And people are afraid of failing. It's a human nature thing that we don't want to fail. We want to succeed. We don't want to do something and have it not turn out the way that we planned. But you have to understand, and John Maxwell wrote a book called Failing Forward, because he understands that, and a lot of successful people, if you ask them, they understand that failure is a part of the equation. You cannot be successful unless you fail. You just look at all of the, Einstein inventing the light bulb, and all these successful entrepreneurs, and creating these products and all these things that are out. Like, you ask them, and how many failed attempts did they have when they were creating those things, when they were building their business? You see their successes. That's what people focus on. Man, look at what Steve Jobs did with Apple. Look at what they accomplished, this huge thing. Well, yeah, but they failed a whole lot getting there, right? But we don't see that part. That's behind the scenes. That's the day-to-day. That's the grind that they are on that we don't see. We only see the positive, the success side of it. So remember that you are going to fail. Accept that and just own it. Just know that at some point I'm going to fail. And hopefully there are smaller failures, but even if it's a big failure, you can pick yourself up and you can start over. You can keep going. That's your decision. That's your choice whether you give up or not. So don't be afraid of failure. Know that it's going to happen. Know that you're going to have failures, and continue moving forward. This one I didn't put in my notes, but I just remembered. So fear of success. People, it's a legitimate thing, and people have a fear of success. And this one is interesting because people say they want to be successful, but then in the back of their mind, they're afraid of, maybe what that looks like when they become successful, how it's going to change their life, and make them uncomfortable. Maybe, they're not really sure what to do with success, right? Because maybe they haven't been exposed to it. Maybe they haven't lived that way out. So they're not really sure how to handle that. Again, I didn't take a whole lot of notes on this one, so I don't have a lot to say about that one, but that is a real thing. And it's something that you should need to be evaluating. Is this something that is holding me back? Am I actually afraid of being successful because I'm not sure, what to expect and what to look for within that, right? This one's very similar to fear of failure, fear of making mistakes, which are basically small failures, right? So when you think of failure, you think of like your whole company, it just is unsuccessful and shuts down and fails, like your bigger things. But mistakes are typically your smaller day-to-day or week-to-week miscalculations, missteps, right? And those are going to happen as well, right? So small failures are going to happen on a consistent basis especially when you first are getting started, because that's how you learn. You think about when you're a little kid. How do little kids learn? They learn by falling down over and over and over again before they walk, right? Jim Rohn, in one of my Challenge to Succeed. If you've never listened to Challenge to Succeed by Jim Rohn, you have to pick it up. I've listened to it. I don't even know how many. I actually haven't listened to it in a while, so I got to pick it back up again. But I probably listened to it at least a dozen times. And he in the only the way that Jim Rohn can do it, he said, what do you do when your baby tries to walk and they fall down? Would you just you're gonna give up, right? Just say no, of course not, right? You're not gonna. No, you how long are you gonna give the baby and to be able to walk until they do, right? Right? So, but they're gonna make mistakes along the way. They're gonna fall. That's how they figure out how to do it, is by continually falling and figuring out that balance, right? So just know that you're not going to be good enough to do something without mistakes when you first started, because you haven't done it before. That's how you learn, is by working through those mistakes, making those mistakes, and then making those adjustments. And that's the key, is knowing that they're going to happen and then being ready to make adjustments and not make the same mistakes again. That's the key. Okay. Fear of rejection. This is a huge one that holds people back, and this goes kind of hand in hand with the next one. So, but without getting ahead of myself here, fear of rejection it's a real thing. Oh, what if they say no? What if they shut me down? What if I make this phone call or knock on this door, or send this letter, because believe it or not, you send someone a piece of mail and sometimes they call and yell at you for sending them a letter. I don't get it. They don't probably call all the credit card companies that send them mail and all that stuff, but they do. They call and they yell at you, but you just have to know that that's going to happen. And you know what? That's a rejection. Man, they called me and they just ripped me a new one, and it can get you down, and it can get you questioning whether, like, is this the right approach? Is this what I should be doing? You can't worry about other people and how they respond to what you put out there. You have to worry about you doing what is going to get you where you're going. Know that it's something that is a positive thing, and is in the best interest of yourself and hopefully the person that you're presenting it to, right? And that's how it should be anyway. And if they reject it, they're rejecting the offer. They're not rejecting you, okay? That's what the key is. They're rejecting what you're proposing. They're not rejecting you personally. You have to make that disconnect, because if you are taking it personally, it's going to be a lot harder to take that rejection. If you can connect it to the fact that they're rejecting your proposal, or maybe right now the proposal doesn't work, that is a totally different rejection than them rejecting you personally. Jack Canfield talks about his equation, E plus R equals O. So an event plus your response to the event equals the outcome. It's how you respond to it that equals what the ultimate outcome is, not how someone else responds to your question, right? So your response is the key in that formula, not their response. So you ask someone to sell their house, they say no. Nothing's changed, right? That you weren't buying their house before, you're not buying it now. He uses the example of, you ask someone out on a date. Oh, shoot, they rejected you, right? They said no when you asked them out on a date. Well, you weren't going out on a date with them before. You're not going on a date with them now. Nothing really has changed in your life. So other than so now you know, right? Versus walking away and just never knowing, right? So attach the success. This is something another one of my mentors has taught me, is that this is success upon delivery. So tie your success to you making the proposal and making it in the best way that you possibly can, and tying it into what for the person that you're presenting it to be what they want and need. And if you tie the success to that you did the best you can and you made the best delivery that you can and you made that proposal, that success, then it doesn't really matter what they say. It really doesn't matter. If they say yes, great. Of course you want them to say yes, but if they say no, you've already succeeded, because you've made your part, you've done your part, and you have delivered on the message, and you have delivered that proposal. So just tie your success to the things that you can control and not to someone else, because you can't control what other people do. So don't worry about rejection. And this is going to go right into the next one, which is because a lot of times rejection is tied to or a fear of rejection. A lot of times what that's tied to is a fear of what others think of you, right? So that's the next one. Fear of what other people may think, right? What if I put myself out there and I look like an idiot? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I, don't look as professional as I want to? What if people make fun of me? What if people start to tear apart what I'm saying and make it say what I'm not actually saying? All sorts of things, especially when you start putting yourself out there. You're going to get shots taken at you, right? But who cares? I mean, honestly, who cares? It doesn't really matter what they think of you. What matters is what you think of you, and the people that you care about, what they think of you. And I'm not saying being a jerk. I'm not saying you don't care at all what people think about you and just be an arrogant jerk. I'm saying if they are thinking negatively of you and you know that you're doing the right thing, it really doesn't matter what they think. They don't know you. They don't know what your motives are. They don't know any of that stuff. So it really doesn't matter what they think of you. Know what you are, what you stand for, what you're trying to accomplish. And if they disagree with that, or they have some sort of weird skew on it that is just untrue or whatever, like, you can't worry about that. You can't worry about what other people think of you and let that stop you. And they win if that is stopping you from moving forward. So just keep that in mind. Eleanor Roosevelt said, "You wouldn't worry so much about what others think of you if you realize how seldom they do." So we let what other people think about us stop us from moving forward. They're not even thinking about us. Okay? They're thinking about themselves and their own issues and all the stuff that they're trying to accomplish and do. They're not thinking about you. So, and even if they were, who cares? It's not affecting you. You not moving forward is affecting you, not their thoughts about you. So I gotta settle down here. So I get fired up about this stuff because and honestly, all of these things have affected me to one degree or another. So I mean, this is speaking from experience, from the heart, from knowing that you got to work through these things to be able to move forward. So okay, fear of being uncomfortable. This is another big one. People like being comfortable. People like their safe space. They like to be cozy and comfortable and just the routine and knowing what to expect. And you have to get outside of that, because growth happens when you're pushing outside of your comfort zone. That's how you get better. That's how you improve. And you can expand your comfort zone. I mean, things that were very uncomfortable to me years ago are now not a problem at all for me. They're just second nature. And there are other things that I'm continuing to push myself and to do more, and as I'm expanding my business and expanding into other things that they are outside my comfort zone. So I have to choose to not let that stop me, because otherwise I wouldn't do them, right? I wouldn't pursue them. And you have to and being uncomfortable, there's a lot around that. I mean, a lot of the other fears kind of work themselves into that, because if you're uncomfortable, it's probably because you're afraid that you might make a mistake, or you're afraid you might look, not look the way that you want to come across. You're afraid that you might fail. You're afraid they might judge you or think something of you, right? So the uncomfortable part of it has a lot of the other fears within it. But what you have to do is you have to get used to being uncomfortable, and you have to put yourself out there, know what makes you feel uncomfortable, and actively choose to participate in some of those things that make you uncomfortable. If you're afraid to knock on doors and talk to someone and say, "Hey, would you know anybody that's in the neighborhood that would be selling their property? I'd love to buy a property in this neighborhood." Go do it. Go do it. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Any of the other fears that we talked about, right? So, but we already talked about those. They're non-issues. You just got to work through them. And the more you put yourself out there and push that comfort zone, the more comfortable you're going to be doing that. And eventually it's not going to be a problem at all. And then you continue to push those boundaries, and you're going to grow. And that's how you become a better person, a better, more rounded business person. That's how you accomplish more things. Is you can't get stuck inside your comfort zone, because all growth and most good things live outside of your natural comfort zone. Okay, fear of possible negative results. This is similar to fear of failure, fear of making mistakes, but this is a little bit bigger. This is more like fear of what if things, fear of failure, but fear of what if things don't go the way that I am wanting them to go, right? And what if, and this is like within your own business, but this could also be, macro level stuff, right? Fear, there's so much negative news out there. There's so much there. We talk about the economy and interest rates and wars and possible wars and all of these things. And, it's really easy to get stuck in your mind. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I start my business and the economy crashes? What if we go to war? What if Russia drops a nuke on us? There's just so many what ifs. What if I drive down the road and I get hit by a car today? And I die in a car accident. There's so many what ifs that could happen, but you can't let those things stop you, because number one, half of them you can't control, probably more than half. A bunch of them you can't control, so you're wasting your time thinking about it, because there's really nothing you can do about it. And the other ones, focus on what you can control and figure out a way to mitigate the possible negative outcomes, right? That's all you can do. Is the ones you can control, try to mitigate a negative result. The ones you can't control, set them aside. Stop worrying about them. Worrying about it's not going to change it. So you're just wasting time and effort thinking about things that you can't control, and that honestly are very unlikely to happen. So you're spending all this time and energy thinking about something that's super unlikely to happen, and we're so focused on the negative side of it when what we should be doing is we should be flipping that around, and we should say, instead of saying, what happens if this goes poorly and this doesn't go the way that I want it to go, what if we started asking, what if this goes exactly how I want it to go, and I hit a home run here, and this is as successful as I want it to be. Don't ask, well, what if I start this business and it goes poorly and I fail and I lose my investment, and the economy crashes and now I don't know what to do. Like, flip that around and say, well, what if this goes well, and what if this business is super successful and I am extremely happy and fulfilled in my business life, and I'm able to provide for my family, and I'm able to give in the way that I've wanted to always give and help other people. Think that way. Think positive. Think the positive spin on it, not the negative spin on it. Okay, last couple here. So fear of the unknown. There's a lot we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen in the market. We can make predictions all day long, but nobody really knows. We don't know what's going to happen in the world. There's lots of crazy stuff going on all around the world and here locally, and just lots and lots of things happening. Your success, you can make a misstep and totally mess up and end up failing and having to start over, or you could be totally massively successful, right? That's the way you want to be looking at it. But there's so many unknowns, and again, there's so many things we can't control. But you can't let that fear, the fear of the unknown, stop you from taking steps to find out what's on the other side. Again, for the things you can control, you never know until you go. You gotta go. You gotta give it the shot. Otherwise, you'll just never know what could have been, right? You'll never know what you could have done or could have been unless you risk going out into the unknown. So you have to go there to be able to know what you're capable of and what you are able to accomplish. For the things you can't control, again, why worry, right? You just, it's unknown. Nobody knows. There's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing that we can say or do that can change some of those things. So there's no sense in worrying about it. It's a waste of time and effort and breath and all of that stuff. Focus on what you can control. Worry about those things, not worry, but focus on those things, do what you can to accomplish the things that you want, and then, set aside the ones that you can't. Now I want to end it on this. I want to end it on a good fear to have. And this is something from one of my mentors that I learned is, because there are some good fears. You can use fear in a positive way. If it's pushing you to do better things, right? Fear of having poor health, if that's pushing you to work out and eat right and make good health decisions, that's a good thing. Fear of, your kids making poor decisions, not that you can control their decisions, but you can help teach them the right way to make decisions and the right ways to live and things like that. So fear can be healthy. Fear keeps us alive sometimes, right? Fear can drive us in the right direction if we use it in the right way, and we're having healthy and right fears and not fears that are just, keeping us from moving forward. So he says, fear regret more than you fear failure. And that's just stuck with me so much. And I have to remind myself of that a lot, because when you're having to make a decision, when you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and you're afraid of failure, if you stop and think, okay, if I don't do this, if I choose to let this negative fear stop me from moving forward, am I going to look back in the future and am I going to regret not trying? Because there's things that I regret not moving on for, earlier, and things that I regret not trying. And there's nothing I can do to change that, right? Other than from now forward, I can make sure that I don't do that again, right? So fear regret and not trying, fear regret and not knowing what you could have accomplished, what you could have done, how an outcome would have been if you would have just opted to move forward and not let fear stop you. Fear that, and fear a life and leaving this world with your verse still in you, without fully living out the life that you are meant to live. Fear that. That's a healthy fear. Now, don't fear it in a way that it, you're just stressing yourself out and I gotta go out and I'll do all this stuff and where you're stressed out about living out your life, right? It should be natural. It should be what you're already pursuing. But think about that whenever you're faced with a decision and you're trying to decide and the fear is starting to creep in and hold you back and make you question if this is something you should do. Ask that question. In a year, in 2 years, in 5 years, am I going to regret making this decision to move forward, even if I fail? Am I going to regret that more, or am I going to regret not even trying? Am I going to look at that scenario? Am I going to if I move forward, even if I fail, what am I going to regret more, that or not even trying and not knowing? I would rather try and fail than not know, because you don't know. You don't know. You will look back in 5, 10, 20 years and say, I could have. I wish I would have. And that is the worst. That is the worst feeling. You don't want to feel that. You want to move forward. Failures will come and go. Successes will be there. But not knowing is, I think, the worst outcome you can have is not moving forward and not knowing. So thanks for listening. Fear, again, this all started with the fun around Halloween and everybody's out there dressing up in their costumes and being as scary as they can be in their outfits and everything and out and about. But fear is a very real thing, and we want to make sure that we're aware of it, are aware of our fears in our own life. Or which of these things are holding you back the most, are your biggest enemy in this. Be aware of that so that you can feel that fear creeping in when you're trying to accomplish your goals. Don't let it win. Set it aside. Use some of these positive spin things that we talked about to rephrase that and relook at that scenario in a positive way. Thinking, what if it goes right instead of what if it fails? All of those things. Fear regret instead of fearing failure, and go out there, take action, and don't let fear stop you from doing that. Thanks again for listening, and make it a great rest of the day.